international race starter who starts them all will switch the lights to red at between 4 and 7 seconds as the Ferrari Testarossa comes into the picture. The lights will go to green and the Australian Grand Prix is go. It's a magnificent start for Nigel Mansell, but Alan Jones is left on the grid. Alan Jones has stalled his engine and has failed to start with the rest of the field, and there he is getting away. But Nigel Mansell went through from second position on the grid, and now Ayrton Senna is right up with him. Keke Rosberg is third, Alboreto is fourth, and off goes one of the Williams, and it looks like Keke Rosberg to me. But no, it's Nigel Mansell's gone off. Keke Rosberg is in the lead on the first lap. Senna is second, Alboreto third, Prost, then Gerhard Berger in the arrows, then Nelson Piquet. So already on the very first lap, one of the likely winners, Nigel Mansell, who is now in about 7th position, has lost his advantage at the start. Now they're coming up towards Stag Turn and up towards the fastest part of the course as they go down from Brewery Corner into the Decaturville Straight.
Well, a very clean start. There was a certain amount of anticipation of possible trouble through the first corner, as it was such a tight corner so close to the grid, but they all got through, and then we saw Ayrton Senna really try and take Mansell by surprise, which he succeeded in doing to the extent that he got a bit scrappy up front. He tried to dive for the inside, Mansell went wide, and the two of them both slowed down, which allowed Rosberg to go through into the lead. So to complete the end of the first lap,
Rosberg leads Senna. In third position, it's Michele Alboreto in the Ferrari, which is something we didn't expect to see. Fourth is Prost. Fifth is Berger. In sixth position, it's Sura. Seventh is Patrick Tambay. Eighth is De Angelis. Ninth is Piquet. 10th is Chiva. 11th is Boutsen. But although Rosberg and Senna are starting on this lap 2 out of 82 to build up a small cushion, I will tell you now that this race is likely to be decided in the last 20 laps. The big problem area here at Adelaide as we join Patrick Tambay's car is brakes, and Mansell is coming into the pits. Mansell is into the pits as we join Patrick Tambay, and ahead of him is Berger's Arrows, and going through on the inside there is one of the Brabhams.
Well, that gives you a wonderful idea of just how crowded it gets at the start. You see the oil splashing onto the lens from other cars, just a bit there, and of course the dust catches up with it, but that's a tremendous view, but we're a little bit too far back. There is Mansell on the right there, having got off, and even Tambay managed to just about, he's had to give him some space. They went side by side, they lost a bit of ground through there. So back line.
And still it is Keke Rosberg leading. Still it is Ayrton Senna in second place. But Nigel Mansell looks as though he's lost his chance of making it 3 in a row. Rosberg leads Senna across the line in the completion. And then it's Alboreto, Prost, Berger, Sura.
Yes, well, Ayrton Senna will be very anxious to get past Rosberg as soon as possible. But the Williams Honda is very quick in a straight line and very powerful, which makes it very difficult to pass, which was probably why Senna was keen to get the jump on Mansell on the first lap, when people tend to be taking things a little bit cautiously and get away, because Senna really has dominated practice and expects to go away from most people. However, Prost, as usual, didn't qualify terribly well, but his car was very good this morning in race trim, and there is Prost in 4th place behind the Scarlet Ferrari of Michele Alboreto, and Prost will be working his way through the field carefully, but watch out for Prost later in the race.
Yes, because I think Michele Alboreto is starting to create a bit of a traffic jam. It's difficult for Prost to get past him. Berger is in 5th place, and then Marc Sura in 6th position. And you'll notice that the Lotus of Ayrton Senna, which is second, and the Williams Honda of Keke Rosberg, which is leading, is starting to ease away. There is Nigel Mansell in the pits. He's blown it. He's lost his chance of winning the Australian Grand Prix, and therefore making it the hat-trick of 3 wins in a row. But his teammate Keke Rosberg could make it for Williams. Rosberg, Senna, Alboreto, Prost, Berger, Sura, Tambay, Elio De Angelis, Piquet, Chiva and Boutsen is the order.
Yes, Senna will know that Prost is not far behind him. And that is Martin Brundle, slowed right down in his Tyrrell. That looks like mechanical trouble and probably the end of a day's work for Martin Brundle. Kent Tyrrell team, unfortunately, have had a pretty unhappy weekend. But Senna will be really keen because he knows that Alboreto is a potential hold-up for Prost. The Ferrari is powerful, and it's very difficult for Prost to pass, and it will hold him up. So Senna would like that these first four look pretty evenly matched, and there's plenty not far behind them with Berger and Piquet right there.
Lap 4, Keke Rosberg, Senna, Alboreto, Prost, Berger. Now, in terms of British drivers, Derek Warwick is in 12th position, Martin Brundle is in 15th place, Nigel Mansell is into the pits, but it's Rosberg, the man who... And now Mansell has retired. You saw the Englishman in the pits there. He's out of the race. Hard luck for him. But his teammate Keke Rosberg now, and Mansell's problem was gearbox. Mansell's problem was the gearbox that brought him into the pits. And now look, Senna is right up with Keke Rosberg, who looks calmly into his mirrors and sees the Brazilian right behind him, with Alboreto still third and in sight.
Yes, Senna's problem is that his superiority over Rosberg seems to be on the wrong parts of the circuit. It's going out in just a moment when they go out onto the faster part of the circuit that opportunities to overtake present themselves. He can't pass in this twisty bit unless he can force Rosberg into a mistake. And Keke is pretty experienced. He knows that he doesn't have to push it at this point because Senna can't do anything about it. He needs to push it now when they're going towards the quicker part of the circuit. They go through up to the quick right-hander now, then onto the long straight. But see, Senna's dropped back a bit. He's not close enough there. He then will reel him in again when they get into the twisty bit, but this is the passing place and he's not in position.
Brakes are going to be the problem. The Williams team are very worried. This is Tambay again. We're joining Patrick Tambay in the Renault, and ahead of him you can see he's got one of the Brabhams as he's threading past someone to go through, passing Nigel Mansell on the right. And now Tambay, you can see a racing driver at work. Watch his hands on the wheel, watch his right hand disappear occasionally. That will be to change gear.
Yes, you can see his instruments going up and down now. Turbo boost pressure. And going past the pits now. First gear he was down to, up through the gearbox. And then he'll be hard on the brakes, knocking it down through the gearbox again for the S's. You can see just how direct the steering is, what fairly small movements he requires. Oh, somebody's just passed him.
I'm determined to finish telling you that brakes are critical in this race, and that is Martini, Pierluigi Martini, who has traditionally gone off again and finished his race pretty early. He looks as though he's trying to get a push start, but the problem is going to be brakes. The Williams team are very worried about the ability of their cars to finish. This is undoubtedly the toughest course in Grand Prix racing on brakes, even bearing in mind that there is the 300 kilometres an hour Brabham Straight to slow them down. And now you can see that on lap 6 in this 82-lap race, Rosberg with Senna. Alboreto still pretty close to them in third position, going through and taking Martin Brundle, who is limping back to the pits. Keke Rosberg, 1:26.9, the fastest lap so far.
Apparently, I've just heard there is some discussion amongst the race organisers about whether Elio De Angelis departed the grid from exactly the right position. However, that's all we know is that there's discussion. All we know at the moment, we'll obviously keep you posted. There may be some sort of penalty for De Angelis if he got on in the wrong position. Now, this is where Senna has closed right up again, but Senna needs to be this close in about 4 or 5 corners time when they go onto the straight. And even then, I doubt whether he can actually pass the Williams Honda, because the Williams Honda is very quick in a straight line.
Senna is using carbon fibre brakes, which are unlikely to last as long as the steel brakes that Keke Rosberg is using. That could give the Finn an advantage later on in the race, but it's not giving him an advantage at the moment. Senna's staying right with him. Third is still Alboreto. Fourth is still Prost. fifth is still Berger. Mark Surer is in sixth position, and I will tell you that Eddie Cheever has come into the pits where he is now with Martin Brundle.
There you see just how much Senna falls back on the straight. He's closed it up again under braking, but he's too far down behind to make a braking manoeuvre, and he really would like to get past Rosberg soon, because then he'll be able to nurse his brakes more. They know that they're in brake trouble, and they're not going to be able to get everything out of their brakes for the whole race. That is Brundle, I think.
Yes, Martin Brundle, and now Senna is just as close to Rosberg as he has ever been. Alboreto is still in touch in third position. Prost is still within sight, and easily so, of Alboreto. Prost in fourth place, the world champion. Gerhard Berger is fifth. Mark Surer is sixth. De Angelis is seventh. Torbay is eighth. Piquet is ninth. Boutsen is 10th. Warwick is 11th. Johansson is in 12th position. And Niki Lauda, the 1984 world champion, is only in 13th position. And Alan Jones is in 17th place. Into the pits comes Jacques Laffite, the Frenchman, in the Ligier on his Pirelli tyres. He's obviously got a major problem, and it looks to me as though he's getting out. He's shaking his head sadly. As usual, they're changing the tyres. Off comes the left front, and Berger has got no rev counter. We know that. Gerhard Berger, who is in fifth place, has lost his rev counter. Eddie Cheever has engine problems. Is still Rosberg, Senna, Alboreto, Berger, Prost, and then Surer.
There's a turn up. Berger's got past Prost, but one of the things that must be heartening, particularly for the vast Italian community here in Australia, particularly in Melbourne, is that Ferrari are having one of their best races for quite a long time. Alboreto is keeping well in touch. He is falling back slightly to the two leaders, but by no means badly. And Ferrari have found a little bit of form here, which they really lost at the French Grand Prix this year, halfway through the season. So it's a very heartening thing to see Ferrari doing so well here.
And it's equally heartening to see the way Gerhard Berger, the Austrian, in his Arrows with the powerful BMW engine, is going. He's not only got past Alain Prost up to fourth position, but as you can see, he is right on the tail of Michele Alboreto, a double Grand Prix winner of 1985. The Austrian who drove in the touring car race here yesterday in a BMW and was unceremoniously bundled into the gravel and the concrete barriers, really knows this course now. He's having a lot of problems. The engine power on the BMW is so substantial that he's getting wheel spin. He's hitting the rev limiter, and in the warm-up this morning, he actually broke the plenum chamber. So terrific with the pressures. But he seems to have got it under control now. Prost is fighting back, and they're both coming up to, it looks like, Laffite back in the race in the Ligier. Martin Brundle's problem was ignition. Martin Brundle, ignition. So Mansell is out, Brundle is out, Pierluigi Martini is out unless he's got restarted. Laffite has been into the pits and rejoined the race, and now on lap 9 out of 82, it's still Keke Rosberg leading, with Senna about 3 car lengths behind him. Then there's about a 3-second gap. Alboreto third, Berger fourth, Prost fifth, Surer sixth, De Angelis seventh. Then there is another gap before the 8th man comes through. It's Piquet, and Torbay is taking him to take 8th position, and Boutsen is in 10th position. Fast, furious, and very hot. The turbo's running at some 1200 degrees, and Keke Rosberg making the most of the fact that the Honda concern in Japan have been working on these 1.5 litre 1500cc V6 turbocharged engines, not only to make them more powerful, but to improve their fuel efficiency and their longevity. And now Rosberg on this long straight eases away from Senna and maybe building a cushion.
Well, Senna's very aggressive tactics on the first lap, he now really has justified. That means that he's given it a lot of thought. He tried to jump Mansell, he succeeded in doing that, but he lost a bit of time, and that let Rosberg through, and he's now showing us why he did go that aggressive and take a risk, because he wanted to be in front, because he is being held up by Rosberg. When you're following another car, you're driving through the hole in the air it makes, and your wings don't work so well. These cars are very... And Senna seems to be slowing. Is he in trouble?
Well, at the present moment, Keke Rosberg leads. Senna is in second position. Brakes and everything else. It's a tough, hard circuit. Are beginning to show on the cars. As ever, the cool racemanship of Alain Prost is showing. The little Frenchman, the world champion, up into third place. Up into fourth place is Sura. I've been tipping Sura to do very well in this race. He's been getting better and better as he has mastered the power of the BMW and the handling of the Brabham, and it's a tricky combination to master. Nelson Piquet has been supremely good at it thus far, and now we have into the pits. Patrick Tambay has gone into the pits, and Tambay was well up, and it's a Ferrari there.
Yes, there seems to be tyre trouble. That's Alboreto's been in, Tombay's in for tyres, so they're hurting their tyres. Yes, Mario, I quite agree with you. Sarah has gone very much better here than for a long time, but there is nothing like the threat of the sack to make people deliver, but unfortunately a racing driver should be able to go without the threat of the sack. He should still be giving it his best. So it does put a question mark over Sierra's mental approach. He's showing he's got the ability.
We've just had a flash from race control that Elio De Angelis is about to be shown the black flag. He's in fifth position. He's going to be shown the black flag, which will almost certainly mean disqualification for starting in the wrong grid position. Elio De Angelis was supposed to start 10th on the grid. I didn't physically check where he was. I took it for granted he would be in the right place. Apparently he wasn't, and he's going to be black flagged. And the last time that happened was at Silverstone, and a furious Elio De Angelis got out of his car after having had a heated conversation with Robert Langford of the RAC and stalked away from it and left it in the middle of the pit lane. Let's hope he doesn't do that this time. So we are on lap 14 out of 82. It's still kicking. There is De Angelis. Now let's watch and see what happens. Elio De Angelis should be seeing the black flag. I'm watching De Angelis going round with one eye on the monitor and the other, and this is difficult, watching the flag marshals at the start to see that black flag and the number 11 go out. So De Angelis coming up towards the end of the lap, and Alan Jones is storming for Australia. Alan is up into 9th position now. It looks as though the Beatrice and the Hart have really got it all together. But now De Angelis is on his way down to Decaturville Straight, and we'll see whether he comes in.
Tremendous stuff going on down the field a little bit from Alan Jones, because they were planning to run pretty low boost on their engine, as Prost in third place and Sura hounding him. He's not even getting away from Mark Sura. He is at the moment some 14 seconds behind Keke Rosberg. We'll have a look to see if that gap is changing. There is Rosberg. Note that the Beatrice team decided to go for a finish today and run very conservative boost on the engine. So Jones, who we haven't yet had much of a look at, must be really throwing the car around. He looked very fired up this morning in the warm-up and was really being very competitive.
And there's the black flag to Elio De Angelis. He's just gone past. The black flag has gone out with his number 11, and he must now come into the pits on the next lap if he obeys orders. And if he doesn't, he's going to be in trouble. The discipline here in Australia is good. Rosberg leads, lap 15. And he's building up a cushion. There is Alan Jones, who is in 8th position now. The Australia, with all the psyching up of driving in front of your home crowd in your own country, is making the best of the improved handling of the Beatrice. The fact that the engine is going, he has regrettably had a lot of engine problems with the 4-cylinder Hart turbo in practice and was not in the best of humours about it before. But hopefully he won't be too unhappy now. And not only is Jones charging through the field, but the old veteran Niki Lauda in his last Grand Prix is doing the same thing. He is 7th. Lap 15. Rosberg leads. Senna 2nd. Prost 3rd. Sura 4th. De Angelis was 5th, but is now into the pits. So up to 5th position will come Piquet, which means both the Brabhams are in the top 6. Behind Piquet, Niki Lauda, and then behind Niki Lauda is Alan Jones. Rosberg, and you've seen, I'm sure, as Rosberg lapped Pierluigi Martini, the young Italian in the Minardi, you've seen that Rosberg is easing away from Ayrton Senna. There's now a 5-second gap. There is Senna in second position. Prost behind him in third place, but not in sight of the Brazilian yet.
Yes, and look at Senna's right front tyre. It looks a little bit marked. And I have a feeling that Senna might be in a little bit of tyre trouble. It looks like he may have a blister. Look at the middle of the tread on the right front tyre. It should be shiny right the way across, and it's not. So Senna, that would explain why Senna was climbing all over the back of Rosberg for a bit and then started to drop back. He's got a little bit of a problem with his tyres. And Alan Jones is in fact catching Niki Lauda, so he must be very pleased indeed. This is far away the best showing, and I'm not sure that Rosberg's tyres look that healthy to me when we get a close look at him. And his right-hand side tyres look to be a little bit grainy. It certainly seems that there's been unexpected amount of tyre trouble already in this race.
5.5 seconds between the race leader, and there is Nelson Piquet out of the Australian Grand Prix. Nelson Piquet has finished his last race for Brabham on foot. And Rosberg, that you're looking at, leads Senna by 5.5 seconds now. Prost in third place, Sura fourth, De Angelis will be coming into the pits, which will put Lauda up to fifth position, and Alan Jones into the World Championship points for the first time since he retired. There is Alan Jones starting another lap, and I'm waiting now to see Elio De Angelis. The black flag is still being readied for him in case he missed it on the previous lap. But Sura goes through. De Angelis now in fifth position. Lauda is sixth. Jones is seventh, but that's still allowing for De Angelis being in fifth place. But into the pits now comes Pier Carlo Ghinzani, the Italian in the Toleman, for a new set of Pirelli tyres. The pneumatic hammers go for it, the wheels and tyres go on, the jack is away, and that was a very good pit stop by the Toleman team. Ghinzani sprints out of the pits, and on lap 17, with a long way to go, it is still Keke Rosberg. He's got a 5.5 second cushion now over Senna, and look at this, Tambay with one of the Ligiers in front of him. French driver in the Renault chasing a French driver in the Ligier, and the French driver is either Jacques Lafitte or Philippe Streff. Straight past him goes Tambay. Tambay now has got ahead of him. He's passed him as Philippe Streff, and now Tambay is catching Alboreto in the Ferrari.
That was a marvellous view of an overtake, of an outbraking manoeuvre. Tambay was closing on him on the straight, got himself into position, went for the inside and jumped him. There they are, of course, looking at them from outside. Now back inside Patrick's car, and he is chasing Alboreto now, I think. Trying to recognise that back view, because the lens has got a little bit dirty, but the technical problem has been much improved at Brands Hatch. The last time it was used, it is Alboreto in front of him. He went a bit wide. Now that was a mistake from Tambay. He didn't make the apex of the corner. He would have lost a little bit of grip, a little bit of time. But he is going quite well. Further up the field, Alain Prost is keeping the gap almost exactly the same all the time with Keke Rosberg, so they're lapping at very similar times, but he is some 14 seconds behind him, so he's going to have to start eating into that a bit. They're holding each other.
And all the time, Keke Rosberg, that you're looking at on lap 19, is easing away from Senna. The gap is now 6.5 seconds, and unless something happens to the Finns Williams Honda, it looks as though he's built up enough of a cushion, particularly bearing in mind the fact that we're worried about whether or not Senna's carbon brakes will go the distance. But now Sura, with the disappearance of his teammate Nelson Piquet, is charging. He is up to third position. You look at Rosberg, who is leading in the Williams Honda. You know that Senna is some 6.5 seconds behind him. I will tell you that Mark Surer in the Brabham BMW is ahead of Prost, who therefore goes down to 4th position. And I haven't seen Elio De Angelis at all. He's either having a fit of sulks and hiding round the back of the circuit somewhere, or has broken down, because they're still waiting to show him the checkered flag. But I suspect he is just quietly bumbling round to avoid walking back to the pits in this 30-degree heat. There's Lauda, well up into the points now.
Yes, Surer going so well under the front of the sack is past Prost, and the pair of them are catching Ayrton Senna.
Ayrton Senna has just gone past the pits in 2nd position, and I've got a stopwatch running on Mark Surer, who's in 3rd place, and note this, the gap between Senna 2nd and Surer 3rd is 8 seconds, and it was some 9 seconds. So Surer in 3rd place is catching the man you're looking at, and there is De Angelis into the pits.
Yes, and he's been a naughty boy, because he's been 4 laps he stayed out there with ignoring the black flag, and I strongly suspect he's heaping a little bit of trouble on his own head. So there may be a big naughty boy affair for De Angelis, and I do sympathise with him.
Out of the car he gets. Now, I don't know whether that's problems or because he just decides I've had enough. That's it, finish, out. So, Alan Jones now into the pits. What a pity. He was in 7th place. Alan Jones within a whisk. No, he shakes his hand sadly. He must be absolutely dejected, because it looks as though he feels his race is finished.
Yes, we saw some flames out of the back of the car just now, Murray, when he was going around, and it may be a blown turbo or something like that, I suggest.
Of which he's had a few since he started to make his comeback at Monza for the Italian Grand Prix. And it seems from the rather leisurely atmosphere in the Beatrice pit that all is lost. He's right opposite me as I talk to you. And as you look at Keke Rosberg, I can tell you that the engine cover is off Alan Jones's Beatrice. The mechanics are looking at the back of the car, which tends to confirm, I'm sure, what James has just said. It's likely to be a turbo problem, not a heart engine problem, but a turbo problem. And so now, lap 21, with 61 laps to go. Jones seems to be out. Elio De Angelis is out. Piquet is out. Alboreto has been into the pits. So has Lafitte. Martini has spun off. Martin Brundle has stopped. And Mansell stopped at the beginning of the race.
They've got to cover the rear. The person who's leading things tends to slow people down. And what it means is they're losing ground to Senna and Rosberg in front of them, because of course the pair of them fighting goes slower than if each of them were on their own, going flat out with only the speed to concentrate on, because remember, they're covering their rears and there are tactics involved.
Now, the Drivers' World Championship is settled. When this race started, the constructors hadn't been. And McLaren, who are currently leading by 10 points from Ferrari, are in a strong position, because Alain Prost is 4th, his teammate Niki Lauda is 5th, and Alboreto, the leading Ferrari driver, because Johansson is 12th, Alboreto is in 6th position. So, at the present moment, McLaren are in the position of adding 5 points to their championship level, whereas Alboreto for Ferrari is only going to add 1. And there is no doubt at the moment that McLaren, having got their 2nd Drivers' World Championship in 2 years with Prost and Lauda, the man you're looking at, are well in the running to get their 2nd Constructors' Championship by beating Ferrari again. But now, on lap 24 out of 82, Keke Rosberg is leading Ayrton Senna, and you're looking at Ghinzani in the pits. Rosberg leads Senna by 9.5 seconds. Mark Surer is 10 seconds behind Senna, and he's about 1 second ahead of Prost. Niki Lauda is 5th, 17 seconds behind Prost. Alboreto is 6th, Streff 7th, Boots at 8th, Capelli 9th, Warwick 10th, Berger 11th, and Johansson 12th.
So just looking at another facet, being a street circuit, this race is 193.5 miles, and of course if it takes longer than 2 hours, it will be stopped at 2 hours rather than 82 laps if they haven't been completed. Now, at the present rate of progress, it's not going to make the 82 laps. However, bear in mind that Shearer's right front tyre doesn't look at its very best. Bear in mind, of course, that they go faster in the second half of the race because they have less fuel on board. The cars get considerably lighter. And this battle for third is really raging. And there goes Danilo Keke Rosberg. I'd like to have a look at his tyres. See if they're marking up. They look all right now. It is possible to see with the naked eye if there is a tyre problem because the tread marks visibly. No, they look pretty good now. Rosberg, and he's in the happy position of having a comfortable lead, some 9, nearly 10 seconds, and that, of course, means he can look after his tyres. He can drive the car carefully, not slide it about too much. And at the current pace we're going, it's going to be absolute touch and go. We're going to complete 82 laps just about at 2 hours.
And as you see, Alain Prost there is ahead of Surer. He's moved up into third position. The Frenchman, the world champion in the McLaren, is in third place now, some 9 seconds behind Ayrton Senna. So Williams leads, a Lotus is second, a McLaren is third, a Brabham is fourth, another McLaren is fifth, and a Ferrari is sixth.
Well, that's Surer. He didn't go to the pits that time. I think he is in a little bit of tyre trouble. And a new fastest lap from Rosberg. But Surer is driving a little bit strangely because having passed Prost, he immediately slowed them down. But then just now he's produced fastest lap of the race. So I think maybe he's tired or something, but he certainly would appear to be driving rather inconsistently. And that won't have pleased Prost being stuck behind that. But now he's past it, he'll be really keen to try and get away, and he certainly is. He seems to be pulling more and more daylight between them.
And to show you how international Grand Prix racing is, as you look at Mark Surer in the Brabham BMW in fourth position, it is a Finnish driver in the lead, it is a Brazilian second, a Frenchman third, a Swiss fourth, an Austrian in fifth place, and an Italian, Alboreto, in sixth position. How international can you get? And it's all happening here at Adelaide in Australia. An absolutely magnificent race, and it looks as though Keke Rosberg is indeed on target to go out on top for Williams by winning his second Grand Prix of the year. We've got so used to this ebullient Finn finishing in winning only one Grand Prix of the year. Alan Jones into the pits yet again. He was in 20th position when he pulled off, but it looks as though his race is virtually over. And Ayrton Senna is still in second position, but the gap is increasing all the time. And the gap between Senna in second place and Prost in third position, that's between the Lotus and the McLaren, is 9 seconds. And Prost is easing away from Surer. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Surer come in soon to change his Pirelli tyres.
I think you'll find that the chase to Rosberg is now on for Prost. Prost, having dealt with the Surer problem, I think you'll find is catching both Senna and Rosberg, but it's early days yet. We will keep a close eye on that gap.
This is Ayrton Senna that you can see, and I'm going to put a stopwatch on Keke Rosberg and check the gap between himself and Prost, which was 19.5 seconds, and we'll see whether indeed the Frenchman, Prost in third position, is catching the Finn, Keke Rosberg in the lead. And if so, it's going to be a fascinating race. Derek Warwick, the Englishman, is up to 9th position. Keke Rosberg has just completed a lap. There's the man in second place. And Prost, we've just had a message that Prost is in trouble.
Yeah, what happened? My engine stalled on the warm-up lap, and according to the rules, you cannot make up position. And I lost position, and a make-up position, I mean, I just get back my starting grid position, and unfortunately, the rules say that you are disqualified. But it's amazing that it took them 18 laps to realize that. So, I mean, I was risking quite a bit to be penalized.
But we'll have to take a check on that and lap times, because Prost, with Lauda seemingly going pretty well, he was going slow as he entered the lap, but whatever the problem was, he seems to have overcome it and recovered. But Alain Prost certainly hasn't. And now on lap 28, Keke Rosberg has got that secure lead of some 10 seconds now over Ayrton Senna. Up to third has gone Marc Surer. In fourth position now, it was Niki Lauda, and it still is.
Well, that will make Keke Rosberg very happy, because Prost actually had started to catch Rosberg pretty quickly, in fact very quickly, and was looking a clear favourite to catch him. So Rosberg will now, and he would have known that, Rosberg, he would have had his pit signals, and he will now be able to breathe a sigh of relief, because that must have been his big worry, the threat of Prost coming through from behind with that wonderful handling McLaren chassis that is so durable. But it's a rare event for Tag Turbo to blow up. However, their second string is still out there. Lauda is up to fourth place, but I don't think that Niki is going to make much impression on leader Rosberg or even on Ayrton Senna if none of them have mechanical trouble. And Rosberg really now looks very settled. I think he's looking after everything, and he's well on top of the situation.
One of the things we haven't told you is that some of the drivers, and certainly Keke Rosberg there, is in radio communication with his pits. He can talk to the pit personnel and vice versa, and it is absolutely sure that they will have given him the heartening message, Prost out.
Well, you could see oil on the track then, on the 9, and you could see just before it at the end of the straight those yellow and red striped flags, which are oil flags, and that would undoubtedly have been from the blown engine in Prost's car as it blew. But Prost has put a bit of oil down on the circuit, and that probably tells you what it's done to the lap time. Rosberg was lapping in the mid-25s, and suddenly it's gone out to over 1 minute 28. So that starts to make our 2-hour rule possibly come into force again.
On lap 30 out of, we imagine, 82, Keke Rosberg has lapped everybody up to the 8th man, Derek Warwick. It's Rosberg that you're looking at leading. It is Senna in second place, but the gap between Senna and Rosberg is only 7.5 seconds now. It's closed. It may have been because Rosberg, in lapping slower men, was held up, or it may be because Senna there in the yellow helmet is charging. But anyway, the gap is closing. Surer is third, Lauda is fourth, Alboreto is fifth, Streff is sixth, Boutsen is seventh, Warwick is eighth, and then Capelli, in only his second real Grand Prix for Tyrrell, is in a fine 9th position but has been lapped. Lafitte is 10th, Berger is 11th, Johansson is 12th, Fabi is 13th, Rothengatter is 14th, Prost, of course, has retired, as have Martini. Ginzani's been into the pits. Patrese is out. Tombe is out. Alan Jones is out. Piquet is out. In fact, there are, as is not unusual at this time in the race, comparatively few runners left out of the 25 who started, but the ones that are left are certainly rapidly holding the attention of this enormous crowd.
Back to Murray Walker and James Hunt.
So with Patrick Tombe out of the race, it will be Derek Warwick, and it is Derek Warwick, and ahead of Warwick is Boutsen. Now, and Senna is right with Rosberg. 1.72 seconds is the gap on lap 33. Now we're going to see a battle royal, because Rosberg will know that Senna is there. He will have had a signal. He may have even been told on the radio, and his problem is that he's got to get past Warwick, which he's done. He's then got to get ahead of the car in front of him, which is Boutsen, and keep Senna back at the same time.
That wide slide there by Senna was a bit of inexperience. He's pretty complete, but it just shows terrifying prospect for the opposition that the best of Senna is still to come. He attacked when he shouldn't have done then, slid wide, lost a bit of time, done no harm of course, but it was just an unnecessary mistake, and it was attacking at the wrong moment, because he couldn't pass the Renault at that particular point. However, he's lining up to get past him. He may be able to come at them on the brakes here at the end of the straight. He's got one. He's got the arrows as well. So Senna has cleared the problem. He now has only Rosberg to deal with in the immediate future.
Jackie Stewart, who's forgotten more about Grand Prix racing than most of us know, said yesterday that in his opinion, Ayrton Senna was about 2 years off his prime. If that's so, it's a pretty terrifying prospect for all the rest of them. And the gap now, which is almost visual, is 1 3/4 seconds. That's the man who's in second place, Senna. Mark Surer is still there, but 28 seconds behind the leader in third position. Niki Lauda is fourth. Alboreto is fifth. Streff is sixth. And now the leader, Keke Rosberg, has leapt everybody up to Philippe Streff, who is in sixth position. And that's a superb performance by the Frenchman.
For Senna, he's got a little bit of paper in the left-hand radiator, his left-hand side of the car, the right-hand side as we look. I saw a bit of paper flapping around. It's disappeared for the moment. If it's gone into the pod and against the radiator, that could cause an overheating problem. So, the big mistake from Senna. That certainly would be what Jackie meant, because in 2 years' time he won't even do that. That will please Rosberg, because he's pushing very hard. But the way he's caught Rosberg, there isn't a hurry. So bad tactics by Senna. Here we see it again, right up on the curb, and he could have damaged the car because he really gave it a big bouncing over that curb. Now, it remains to be seen as to whether Senna has got himself into trouble if he's damaged any of the suspension on the car, because they really aren't designed for all that sort of fun and games.
I think that Ayrton Senna has got brake problems. We were expecting that. You can see the paper in the pod, but that he's going to overheat. That is absolutely for sure. That's what happened to Keke Rosberg at Detroit. He had to come in and have the paper removed from the pod, which was blocking the radiator, but still, of course, won the race. But I think Senna's got brake problems. I think that's why he overshot. I don't think it was a driver error. He's got these carbon fibre disc brakes, and they're less likely to last than the steel ones.
Yeah, this is where radio communication can help you if you've got it, because in Senna's case, there's a very, very good chance that he won't know that piece of paper in there. Now you get a feel for the acceleration of the car as we look down on them, and now boosting it up onto the main straight and getting up to 300 kilometers an hour, which the helicopter can't even keep up with. I see him going away from the chopper. However, the problem is with that paper in the radiator. There's no reason why Senna, he can't see it from where he's sitting, but he may see his temperature gauge going up. So the pit can ask him, is your water temperature all right? If it's not all right, they know the problem. They'll just give him an in signal, quick, come in, they'll rip out the piece of paper, very quick stop, and he's on his way again. But they've got tyres ready for him there in the pits as well. So they may just call him in, but they really don't want to call him in unless he's overheating. If that bit of paper is only covering probably about 10% of the radiator area, so it may not be enough to cause overheating.
And you saw that flash of the fastest lap there. So we've now got a really dramatic situation on lap 36 with 46 still to go if the race goes the full distance. Ayrton Senna still the fastest man on the lap in the race, 1:24.3. So his problem isn't slowing him, and now Rosberg has got Huub Rotengatter, the Dutchman, in the Osella in front of him, and Senna is starting to claw back the increased gap which resulted from his going off. It would seem that his bumping over the curb has not affected yet the suspension, but might well do. There might be a fracture there which could cause a problem later on. But anyway, on lap 36, Rosberg leads. You can see how close to him Senna is. Surer is third, Lauda is fourth, Alboreto is fifth, Streff is sixth. Those are all on the same lap. Seventh is Warwick, he's been lapped. Boutsen is eighth. Capelli is ninth. Lafitte is 10th. Berger is 11th. Johansson is 12th. Farby is 13th. And Rotengatter is 14th. And then Martini, of course, who's 15th officially, is 4 laps adrifted out.
Yes, and that was a neat, polite little bit of letting through by Huub Rotengatter then. He saw Senna coming. As soon as he was in the way, he stepped neatly out of line and joined in again back onto the racing line.
Into the pits comes Gerhard Berger. There he is no, it's Boutsen. It's Boutsen. Very difficult to tell them at a quick glance from their helmets. Thierry Boutsen into the pits, 8th position. So it's bad luck for the Belgian. Meantime, the remorseless, super cool Keke Rosberg with turbo flame stabbing from the rear of his Williams goes on his way, keeping ahead of the yellow helmeted Ayrton Senna in the black and gold JPS Lotus Renault, and the gap is 3.3 seconds. It was down to about 1.4 when Ayrton was at his closest. The Brazilian that you're looking at has had an incredible season. He's won twice at Portugal and Belgium. He's had 2 second places, 2 third places. He's been on the front row of the grid 10 times. But his record has been destroyed by the fact that he's had to retire 9 times. As a matter of interest, Martin Brundle is back in the race. Martin Brundle, who disappeared so long ago, has restarted after having what looked like a fairly major rebuild in the pits. And his teammate, Ivan Capelli, the young Italian from Formula 3000, is in 8th place, only 1 lap behind Rosberg, which is a real credit to the young Italian, who's a star of tomorrow, I feel sure. You're looking at a star of today, Mark Surer, Brabham BMW, 3rd place.
Yes, and Surer really has dropped back out of contention for the lead, where the battle between Rosberg and Senna rages up front. He's over half a minute behind that battle and is falling back into the clutches of Niki Lauda. He's 9 seconds or so in front of Lauda, so Lauda has been, well, I think more accurate to say that Surer has fallen back. Lauda, in fact, is keeping up with the speed of Rosberg. The gap, he's some 42 seconds behind Rosberg at the moment, but he's been between 40 and 42 for some 15 or 20 laps now. So Lauda is on the pace of the leaders, but of course starting from that grid position, that was how he got so far back.
Just put yourself in the position of Surer. He is driving at some 300 kilometres an hour down what will look like to him a concrete tube with the barriers on either side. The cars have got very hard suspension, so his spine will be hammered. The noise will be terrific. The heat will be enormous. The temperature of inside the cockpit can, on really hot days, be as much as 150 degrees. I'll say that again, 150 degrees. And the sweat pours out of the drivers. The weight loss is enormous. Unless you are truly fit and have superb stamina, you can be worn out long before the race finishes. And Rosberg is now coming up to lap Michele Alboreto in the Ferrari, who is in 5th place, as Surer crosses the line in 3rd position, 36 seconds approximately behind Keke Rosberg, the leader. So Surer again is going to have done better than his teammate Piquet. Not that that will worry Piquet, because Piquet has now finished with Brabham, and he and his car designer, the brilliantly gifted Gordon Murray, parted company on the nicest possible terms in South Africa when Gordon Murray, a South African himself, said, I will not be going to Australia because Gordon is working on a very advanced and new Brabham BMW to be driven by we know not whom, but we think Elio De Angelis and another, and there's somebody hidden in the fire there. I don't know who it is. It's Martin Brundle's car. Martin Brundle's... or is it? No, that's not. That's an Arrows from the look of it, in which case it's either Boutsen or Berger. We'll have to ident that later for you, and we'll certainly be able to do so on the lap chart. But Martin Brundle is okay. That was a misidentification for which I apologise. But it's certainly an Arrows underneath the foam, and another gold medal, a 10 out of 10 for the organisation here at Adelaide. It's Boutsen. That is Thierry Boutsen walking in, and heaven be praised, he is obviously perfectly all right, but is very much out of the race. Senna and Rosberg, look at this, we're back with the battle for the lead on lap 40, which is 1 lap short of half distance.
Now, Senna is now confronted with the same problem that he had in the opening laps when he was climbing on the back of Rosberg's car and trying to get past him, but not really looking as if he was going to. But he has a bit of a hope here, because with Alboreto in front of the pair of them, he may just be able to hold Rosberg up enough to give Senna a chance to try and jump him. It's always an opportunity to know, but Alboreto, experienced driver that he is, has pulled out of the way, and he's pulled back in front of Senna, and Senna won't be pleased with that. Senna, uncharacteristically for him, that was no need for that to make the mistake. He pushed hard. You could see Alboreto wasn't going to be kind. And Senna was scrappy on Friday in qualifying, and in fact overdrove, if I can use that term, meaning that he tried too hard, was throwing the car around too much, and didn't get the fastest practice time, albeit only by 1,000th of a second behind Rosberg, but he was expected to. He was better yesterday in qualifying, but he's been uncharacteristically forceful in what, after all, is a long race, and forceful tactics in Grand Prix racing, particularly on street circuits, don't usually pay dividends. So Senna's driving has been a little bit scrappy, but that's why Jackie says he's got another 2 years before he's going to reach his peak, and that is true. He will, I can't see these sort of lumps of inexperience coming out in the future, but he's learning. He'll learn from this. He'll be able to look at his race afterwards and see that his forcefulness was possibly causing him trouble. I think he'd be better off if he'd driven just more quietly and smoothly. He would have been just as quick. Anyway, all is well. He's back on Rosberg's tail.
And Rosberg is catching Niki Lauda to lap him.
This happened. It's a replay. Ayrton Senna came up behind Keke Rosberg. Suddenly Keke Rosberg braked to go into the pits. Ayrton Senna hit him with his front wing, destroyed his front wing. Rosberg continued into the pits, and Ayrton Senna has gone off the track. He's gone off the track while this is live now. This we're back live too. It's in front of the pits. He's overshot the pit lane. He's in trouble. He's losing front wings. This team don't know what to do. They're smiling as if to say, what can we do about that? His left-hand front wing is hanging off. That was the replay. That was him going almost into the fence. How he avoided that, well, I don't think even he had a lot to do with it. It was just praying and getting round. Keep in mind that he was leading this Grand Prix when that happened, because Keke Rosberg had gone into the pits. Ayrton Senna is having a day of error, and there is Mark Sure's car, which is coming to a stop. He was in third position. What a lot is happening. Back to Murray Walker and James Hunt.
Brandon, he must go for the pitch, but I'm surprised. At the really bad thinking race that Senna is doing.
Mark Sure out of the Australian Grand Prix. So let's take a cool breath and reconsider what has happened in those superlative 2 laps. Keke Rosberg is now catching Ayrton Senna, having been into the pits to get new tyres, and Senna in the stricken JPS Lotus is about to lose the lead that he fought so hard to gain, because he's got real handling trouble with no front wing at all, and Rosberg is just going to drive past him superbly. Look at him. Senna is trying, but not good enough, and back into the lead on lap 44 goes Keke Rosberg, who lost the lead on lap 41, and into the pits comes Ayrton Senna. Now let's watch some excellent pit work. If only that chap would get out of the way. Move. So there we are, Steve Hallam, the race engineer, talking to Ayrton Senna, and this young man is very, very cool, but look at the time he's losing. 15 seconds, 16 seconds, 18 seconds, coming up to 20 seconds. This has lost the race, I predict, for Ayrton Senna. The new nose is on, and let us hope that the wing is adjusted properly and not to affect the downforce. And now Niki Lauda looks as though he is moving up. He has. He's moved up into second place on lap 45. Rosberg leads, Lauda is in second place, and Senna is down to third.
Well, I had to say that Senna, brilliant though his driving has been, has heaped all these troubles on his own head. He has, I'm afraid, driven this race with his heart and without any use of his brain, but he's been sufficiently quick here that if everything is working well for him, there is an outside chance that he could still catch Rosberg. I would expect him to be a good 40 seconds behind him, but he could still give him certainly a very good run for his money if he just keeps it really smooth, keeps it on the limit, but keeps it smooth and cool, which is what he has not done here. It's quite out of character for him to have driven like this, but I'm sure he will learn a lot of lessons from this race if he thinks about it properly afterwards.
And there's the man, Keke Rosberg, on new race rubber, new tyres, and as he disappears round the other side of the circuit, Niki Lauda is coming through to start his 46th lap, and the gap between Rosberg and Lauda is now nearly 30 seconds. So Keke Rosberg must be praying for no mechanical problems, because that's about the only thing that can stop him now. A 30-second cushion with 36 laps to go is an enormous margin to an experienced campaigner like the world champion of 1982, Keke Rosberg, who really does look now as though he's on his way to his second win of 1985. A magnificently high note to leave the Williams team and go to McLaren and offer maximum opposition inside the team to his new teammate next year, Alain Prost. And there's Niki Lauda in second position now.
Yes, but Senna is not far behind him. He lost less time than I expected. There is Ayrton Senna. So he's got Lauda very much in his sights. And that is Jacques Lafitte in front, that Lauda failed to get past to lap then, but Senna is catching him hand over fist. So Senna is there we have it, 35 seconds, or he was at the start of this lap, behind Rosberg. And I think that it is feasible for Senna possibly to be able to haul that back in on Rosberg.
Another well done to the organisers. At half distance, the time taken was 59 minutes 28 seconds, so it looks as though we're going to do the full 82 laps to within about 4 seconds. A quite incredible achievement, bearing in mind that the speeds had to be computed. And Niki Lauda now up behind, is it Lafitte? I'm sorry, I think it's Streff actually. It's Philippe Streff, the Frenchman. And meantime, with Streff holding up Lauda, who's in second place behind the leader Rosberg, Ayrton Senna is visibly gaining on the Austrian.
I should point out that Senna, as I say, was heaping these problems on himself, and the last decision, which was not to go into the pits immediately once he knew he'd lost a front wing and had already slid wide at several corners with a handling problem, that alone, by having to do another lap with no front wings on, plus the excursion, would cost him somewhere between 10 and 15 seconds on the road. So had he got in straight away, he'd never have been behind these two. And also, of course, he would have been in much better range to take a shot at Keke Rosberg. So Senna's relative inexperience has suddenly all come out at once. We haven't seen this side of him before.
Now, you know who the first three are. Rosberg, Lauda, Senna. You can see Lauda and Senna in your picture now as they come through to complete their 47th lap. But in fourth place is Michele Alboreto. Fifth is Derek Warwick in the Renault, and he hasn't been up there for a long time. And Senna has got ahead of Streff. In sixth position is Jacques Lafitte in the Ligier. Seventh is Capelli in the Tyrrell with a fine drive. Down to eighth goes Streff. Ninth is Gerhard Berger. 10th is Johansson in the Ferrari. Rotengata, 3 laps adrift, is 11th. Mark Schurer, of course, is out of the race but was 4 laps behind. Is 4 laps behind now. And Ayrton Senna is trying to catch 3 times world champion Niki Lauda in his 171st Grand Prix. Lauda, that is. 25 wins behind him, being chased by the man with 2 victories behind him, Ayrton Senna. Continues as it shows every sign of going to be, as we look across at the Mount Lofty ranges, to be superb. Glorious visibility, magnificent heat, the haze shimmering off the circuit of parts. Magnificent heat, the haze shimmering off the circuit of parts. And Keke Rosberg is on his way. This is lap 49.
Yes, and looking at the way Senna is struggling to catch Lauda, I think probably with all the bumping and banging around, that his car isn't quite in the same top form that it was before, and who can blame it? Senna remains to be seen. We'll watch that gap if and when he can get past Lauda, but that seems a big enough problem for him right now without worrying about Rosberg out ahead. Rosberg, of course, will know from his pit the gap, the relative differences, and is in the happy position of being able to control the race from the front.
And 3 out of the top 6 are in their last Grand Prix in one way or another. Rosberg, the leader, is in his last Grand Prix for Williams. Lauda in the red and white McLaren is in his last Grand Prix before retirement. Derek Warwick in 5th position is in his last Grand Prix for Renault, and we wonder whether he's going to get a drive next year. Incidentally, while you watch the battle for second between Lauda and Senna, I will tell you that it has been officially announced that the Toleman team are going to use German BMW engines next year, and that Teo Fabi has re-signed for the team, which will be known as the Benetton team next year.
Niki Lauda, this is pre-recorded just while we were in commercial. He tucked in behind him on the main street, he came alongside him, and he did him under braking. So Ayrton Senna has climbed up the slippery ladder that he's been on all day. He's got himself back into 2nd position. Keke Rosberg still leads. Ayrton Senna is 2nd. Niki Lauda is 3rd. Michele Alboreto is 4th. Derek Warwick is 5th. And we'll go back to Murray Walker and James Hunt.
Now the gap to come back. It's a question of whether Senna can actually catch him when Rosberg is trying that out. So we will watch and wait and see.
Mark Surer is out of the Australian Grand Prix. So is Boutsen, so is Prost, so is Tambay and Jones. Elio De Angelis, who was black flagged. Nelson Piquet, Martini, and Derek Warwick is still in 5th position behind Alboreto. Warwick has been lapped, Alboreto hasn't, and you see the gap between Rosberg and Senna is a bit less than it was. It was some 30 seconds, and I was hypothesising that Rosberg would slow up a bit. We don't know whether that gap reduction is due to Rosberg slowing up or Senna crowding on the pace. Derek Warwick is in 6th position, my apologies, because Jacques Lafitte has got ahead of him to 6th place, and Senna is really trying now. You can see, having got ahead of Lauda, that he's pulling away.
I don't like the look of Senna's rear tyres. I think the car's been oversteering a bit. It looks a little bit loose at the back, and it looks as if his rear tyres have maybe grained up a little. But let's hope not, because it's going to be exciting watching him chase Rosberg. Lauda is still holding on very well behind him, and in fact both of them are catching Rosberg, so I suspect, yes, that left rear tyre that we're looking at now, you see the grain, the tread should be shiny all the way across, and his right rear. However, at the moment, he may be able to clean that tyre up by looking after it, because sometimes you can, once it's worn down a little bit, it will smooth up again. The tyre should be smooth, not ripply. That darker effect where it isn't shiny is where it's rippling. The rubber is rippling, and that means that it's not giving the maximum possible grip.
Piquet, by the way, who went out quite a long time ago, suddenly had his cockpit filled with smoke, and knowing the danger of fire in what is virtually a high-speed mobile petrol tanker, wisely stopped, and his teammate Mark Surer had his left tyre go, and in the process of trying to do something about it, the engine stopped and he couldn't get it going again. And Lauda's definitely catching Senna.
Yes, absolutely, and I think that is because Senna is in trouble with his rear tyres, and Rosberg is back in the pits.
Yes, Keke Rosberg back in the pits. This is amazing. Now let's have a look and see what the problem is. He's obviously concerned about tyres. Right front off, left rear off, all of them off. He's got a very considerable lead, of course, 28 seconds, and he can still put on new tyres and get out again. But this is the second time that Keke Rosberg has been in for tyres.
And problem with one of the front wheels, the left front is jammed on, and Senna has gone through. So Senna is back in the lead, but I tell you what, Niki Lauda is right behind Senna, and Lauda, I suspect, is the healthier of those two, because he's not in tyre trouble. I think Senna's going to have to come back in, unless he can nurse them, and Rosberg is probably in range to catch them, especially on a fresh set, if he looks after them. He will know. Now, Rosberg is experienced. He will know that he's got to bring these tyres in gently, because that's what Senna didn't do, and that's probably what he didn't do last time. Those rear tyres on Senna's are being a bother. And Lauda, whose tyres look very nice and is taking it very steadily as he does, is suddenly, with conservative application, looking very much one of a joint favourite to win this race, if not favourite.
Well, my problem is I want them all to win, but wouldn't it be marvellous if Niki Lauda won the last Grand Prix of his career? And he certainly could do it. Here he comes in the McLaren. That would certainly seal the Constructors' Championship in the nicest possible way for the McLaren team.
And wouldn't that be a perfect lesson for Ayrton Senna, the wily old champion, showing him just what you can do with brains rather than brawn. And because we know that Ayrton, and you can even see his car snaking on the straight. These rear tyres are definitely causing him trouble. And that will be a lovely lesson for Senna, because Senna is definitely a future champion. And Niki Lauda will just give him a nice last time out.
There is only 11.8 seconds between Ayrton Senna in the lead and Keke Rosberg, who is in third place on the 55th lap. We are going to see an absolutely superb closing lap situation between these three great drivers, with Niki Lauda now right on the rear, on the gearbox of Senna's car, and he's in a good position to nip out of the slipstream of the Lotus on the straight and get through into the lead in the last Grand Prix of 1985 here at Adelaide, in a race that's been full of excitement, drama and interest, and Lauda's in not quite the position now to go through, but not far off it.
Yes, I think Niki made a tactical error there. I think he should have dropped back a little bit as they came onto the straight and swung it in much harder, because he does need to pass Senna soon, because Rosberg, when he brings these new set of tyres in, with only some 10 plus seconds, there are 11 seconds in it, Lauda really needs to get past Senna and get away, because Senna will be holding him up now, and Rosberg will catch him too quickly.
Niki Lauda, of course, hasn't been in for new tyres. He's a wonderfully smooth driver, is Niki, and if anybody can make a set of tyres last the whole race, it will be him. He may well be on the B compound, which is harder than the C compound, which is the softest of all, and that could give him the advantage. And now he's certainly getting close to being in a position to draft past Senna on the Brabham Straight, the longest and fastest straight of any street circuit, where they do over 300 kilometres, 200 miles an hour.
It's this corner. He wants to be dropped back a little bit. There's Nelson Piquet in the pits now. Lauda is a bit close. He wants to get a slingshot at Senna. He's better positioned than he was on the last lap, and I think he's going to be able to duck out. Yeah, here he comes. Senna's not fighting back, because he knows that he's in tyre trouble, and Lauda looking supremely smooth. Of course, the other thing is Lauda can afford now to drive hard on his tyres, which the others can't, because they've got that much meat off them. They don't have the same potential heat build-up. Now you see that the tread faces on Lauda's tyres are nice and smooth. There's no grading, and compare it with the left rear of Ayrton Senna's. Although I think Senna's tyres are cleaning up. They look better now than they did a few laps ago, and it is possible to rescue a damaged tyre if you're very careful with it, and I think that is what Ayrton Senna's trying to do.
Lap 57, and in his 171st Grand Prix, after not qualifying well, being 16th on the starting grid, Niki Lauda has shown all the brilliance that we know and has driven through to the lead with 25 laps to go if the race goes the full 82-lap distance as opposed to 2 hours. And Lauda now coming up to the Ferrari in front of him. You can see how he's pulling away from Ayrton Senna, who has clearly got a problem. And Lauda goes out, and I can't see whether it's Johansson or Alboreto. I think it is Alboreto that he's passing. And Alboreto is in 4th position. So now Lauda in the lead has lapped everybody up to the 3rd place man, who is Keke Rosberg. And I will give you the gap between Lauda and Rosberg, which was last time I took it, before Rosberg's tyres had warmed up, 11.98 seconds. And it was actually Stefan Johansson that Lauda passed and not Alboreto. Now, here's Lauda, and he's completing the lap now. And the gap between Lauda and Senna is just about 2 seconds. Here is Rosberg. I see him as Stefan Johansson is caught by Senna, and the gap now is 10.3 seconds. Rosberg is gaining. Keke Rosberg in 3rd position on his 2nd set of new tyres. There he is catching the new race leader, Niki Lauda.
That looks to me as if Rosberg did what others have failed to do in this race. He used his head then, and even he the first time, because he went out on a new set and ruined them. He had the intelligence and experience to come straight in and not soldier on, and he brought these ones in slowly now, and now he's flying. He waited for a few laps before he really put his foot down, and that could well win him the race. Lauda is well within his range.
6 cars on the first lap. Race leader, Niki Lauda. And off he goes. Niki Lauda's lost it. And he's completely smashed the front of the car. And he will reverse out because it looks to me as though he hasn't damaged the left front suspension. Let's look at it again. And let's watch Ayrton Senna. Lauda off, up onto the curbing, trying to avoid the concrete wall, but he's smashed the left suspension. Lauda is out.
Well, I don't know what happened there. He may have just knocked through it, but it almost looked as if the car snapped out of control so quickly. Something may have broken on it. It did seem to snap and turn sharp left. And there is Ayrton Senna, and Rosberg is in sight behind him now.
And Derek Warwick, who had stood the chance of moving up a place, has gone out of the race as well. It's all happening. Adelaide is indeed alive, because now Ayrton Senna is back in the lead. There is Derek Warwick out of his last race for Renault, and we have the prospect now of seeing Keke Rosberg catching Ayrton Senna and taking the lead. Senna with a new nose on the Lotus. There is Stefan Johansson in the background. You remember what the gap was? 11 seconds. You've just seen it's 5.6. We're on lap 59, 23 laps to go. The closing stages of the Australian Grand Prix are going to be something to see, because look at Rosberg in the background, behind Johansson. The gap is visibly closing. Keke Rosberg, the 36-year-old Finn who lives in Ibiza, flies his own jet plane, is immensely wealthy, a great wheeler dealer, is about to try and catch Senna, and I think succeed.
Yes, absolutely, and there'll be no need for his pit to signal him gaps now. He can see Ayrton Senna. He'd like a clear view of him so that without Johansson in the way. But I don't think he'll be too worried. He knows he's going to dispense with the Ferrari probably when they get back onto the straight at halfway round this current lap, and then he'll have clear air. Senna still bouncing it over the curbs, but that wasn't too serious on the apex of the corner. Have a look at his rear tyres. You see the right rear is all grained across, it's all rippled across, and that is not a healthy rear tyre at the moment, and he's now under too much pressure from Rosberg really to take the time to slow it down and try and clean them up.
Meantime, let's think about the Constructors' Championship. Both McLarens are out of the race and therefore out of the points. Alboreto is in third place on 4 points. His teammate Johansson is still running, albeit in 10th position, but might still finish in the points. McLaren started this race 10 points ahead of Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. It could turn out to be a very close thing, but not as close as it's getting in the race for the lead on lap 60 out of 82. The gap is down to 3.9 seconds and less than that, I suspect. Senna goes over the line looking into his mirror. Rosberg goes over the line looking at Senna. 3.5 seconds. Into the S's goes the Finn at some 140 Ks. Up to Wakefield Turn, chasing Senna, 110 Ks, second gear, stay in second gear. Go up to East Terrace Bend, the left-hander, at 110 Ks. On to Flinders Bend, still in second at 110. Accelerate up, third gear, fourth gear, 150 Ks. Senna still in front. Up to the Markets Turn, the right-hander, 150 Ks. Back to second for Stag Turn, the right-hander, which they're approaching now, 110 Ks. Up to third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, down Rundle Road, 150 kilometres an hour. Third gear into Brewery Bend, which they're approaching, and through now, down into the Getawell Terrace in sixth gear or fifth if you've only got a 5-speed gearbox. 300 kilometres an hour, 200 miles an hour. Brake hard for the racetrack hairpin. First gear, 100 Ks. Up to second, to third, to fourth. Into the paddock turn, which seems to going on left, left, left forever. Then it straightens out a bit. Rosberg there, still in second place, catching Senna. Fourth gear now, 200 Ks, down to Mitsubishi Corner, the hairpin, and the gap as they go through towards the end of the lap, with Senna frantically looking in his mirror again. He's down to 2.3 seconds.
And I'm just looking at Rosberg's tyres, and they look to be marking up a little bit the rears, but he's still catching Senna. And certainly he's had the charge. No, they look just getting a decent look. You need to get the light right to see him, but the right rear has grained across half the tread. It's not as bad as Senna's, and I think Keke really could afford to take it easy for a little while. He's got plenty of time left in this race. He ought to clean those tyres up by taking it easy and then have a go. I think, of course, it's very easy to sit here and hypothesize like that. Those two chaps are out there in the very heat of battle, and it's a lot more difficult to make cool decisions. But Rosberg is lining up to attack Senna now. He's hauled him in pretty quickly.
And you're about to see a new leader, I think, on lap 62. Senna leading, Rosberg second, Alboreto third, Lafitte fourth, Streff fifth. In sixth position, and there he goes, Senna, it slows, and Rosberg goes through, and Keke Rosberg again rightly leads the Australian Grand Prix, and I think Senna's race is over. He's slowing right down, he's blown it. The turbo has gone on Ayrton Senna's Renault engine into the pits. It went at just the right point for him not to have to walk home, because I have little doubt that Ayrton Senna will be getting out of the car as it goes up on the jacks. On go the new tyres. Steve Hallam talks to Senna through the headphones. Well, this is strange, because they're showing every sign of going on. Maybe the mechanics don't realise what the situation is. Their reflex, of course, would be to get the jacks under the car. Off comes the top. Senna's race is effectively finished. They're having a look at the turbo, and I'm sure that they will decide that he is out. And the threat to Keke Rosberg, the immediate threat, is now removed, and it really is a case of bringing the car home. And Alboreto is into the pits. It's all happening. Alboreto, who was in third place before, but it was in the position of becoming second had he passed the pits where Senna was stationary, is now into the pits stationary. Now, what's that going to mean? It's going to mean that Keke Rosberg leads, of course, and it's going to mean that Jacques Lafitte is up into second place. the Philippe Streff, his Ligier teammate, is up to third, and sensational is that Ivan Capelli is going to go up to fourth place, Gerhard Berger up to fifth position, and Stefan Johansson to sixth place. So had Alboreto not gone into the pits, and if he can still get out, this could make things very, very interesting in the Constructors' Championship. Lap 64.
Well, it looks very much now, Keke Rosberg now enjoys over a minute's lead of Jacques Laffite, so he can really stroke it home very gently to the line, which he undoubtedly will do as soon as he's established that Senna is definitely gone. And all he'll be doing is looking after the car and making sure he makes no mistakes, being very careful when overtaking back markers, and that should be ample. Well, they're still working on Senna's car, but I wouldn't think, unless they can do something pretty quickly, that he really is going to be able to get out onto the circuit with any chance.
Well, if Senna is out, this will, I reckon, be his 10th retirement of the year. And I have little doubt that if he hadn't had all those retirements, bearing in mind the fact that he was in a commanding position in every race when he retired, he would have been this year's world champion. You're looking at Jacques Laffite, who is now up into second place. The oldest man in the race, 41-year-old Jacques Laffite, in the Ligier on Pirelli tyres, is benefiting from the fact that Gérard Larousse and Michel Tetu left Renault last year and have been patiently working on the Ligier and have improved it to the extent that Senna, leaving the pits, have improved the Ligier to the extent that it is now very often in a points position. And it would be a superb drive for the golf-loving Jacques Laffite, who lives at Stoke Poges in England, by the way. Unusual for a Frenchman voluntarily to live in England. And he's in his 167th Grand Prix. Only Graham Hill and Niki Lauda have driven in more Grand Prix than he has. And when you saw Senna rejoining, it was in 7th position. We're on lap 65 now. Rosberg leading. There's Senna. And I notice, he's pointing to the left of his car, and that means pass me on the left, old chum, while I drive over the curb here, because I'm not looking where I'm going. So away goes Ayrton Senna. What do you think, James?
Absolutely right. That's exactly what he did do. Well, Senna's having a funny old day. Funny enough, he came out of Formula 3 into Grand Prix racing with a reputation for immense talent, but some rather hairy driving under pressure, and we never saw that in Grand Prix racing, but we've seen about a season's dose of it all wrapped up into one race today, because he really seems to have taken semi-leave of his senses.
Lap 65, and Rosberg is into the pits again. What a race this is. Keke Rosberg, the race leader. Are we going to see Jacques Laffite go into the lead? What is Keke Rosberg doing to his tyres? He must have some sort of shredder on the back of the Williams.
Well, that's the first bad start. The way he lit them up and smoked them away. They're obviously proving a bit fragile. The track problem is, you see, on a new track, the conditions change faster than on, obviously, a track that's well run in. And we must be sympathetic to the companies and everybody in that you can't anticipate fast changes in track conditions. Senna back in the pits, but I think his day's work is really over. The car, yes, he's out of the car, so that's leaving the office and locking it up. So Rosberg, of course, could afford the luxury of that stop. He's well in front. He had plenty of time to get in and out, and he's now well equipped with nice new shoes on, which should get him to the line, because he won't even have to hurry. There is Jacques Laffite. We'll get a clock on it to tell you what the gap is in just a moment.
Yes, Jacques Laffite. And they say of Jacques Laffite these days, he will drive as fast as the car will go, and very often the car won't go fast enough for this man who's won 6 Grand Prix in his career, has had an incredible 207 points. He actually, as a matter of interest, jointly owns a golf course with his fellow golf fanatic Alain Prost, and there's nothing more that Jacques Laffite likes when he's out of the Grand Prix car than to have a round of golf or patiently sit on the riverbank fishing. They may seem three unusual combinations, but that's it. Rosberg leads then. Then the two Ligiers. What a wonderful ending for the Ligier team. But 45 seconds between Lafitte and Rosberg. Ivan Capelli, in only his third Grand Prix, is in fourth place. Gerhard Berger, a lap adrift. Stefan Johansson, the Swedish driver of the Italian Ferrari, in sixth place on 1 point. And that's Keke Rosberg. Really stroking the about 850 brake horsepower. His 1.5 litre 1500cc Honda engine will be producing. And if Rosberg wins, that means to say that the Williams Honda team will have won the last 3 Grand Prix, because Mansell won in South Africa, he won before that in Brands Hatch, and it will make the 4th Grand Prix win for the Williams team in the season. They're currently in 4th position in the championship, but the 9 points, in fact the 9 points that Rosberg should get could make them 3rd equal in the Constructors' Championship with Lotus.
Yes, a tremendous return to form by the Williams team, and great credit to them. They worked very, very hard. They got they had trouble with their chassis for a while. Then the Honda engine needed developing, and all credit to the Honda engineers who've done a fantastic amount of work. The engine has been improved steadily during the season. And to be quite honest, Nelson Piquet must be standing beside the track licking his lips for next year, because he has signed to drive as #1 for the Williams team, and he must be loving this.
Another team and driver that must be loving this is the gallant little Italian Osella team, who have tried so hard on a minimal budget to get something done. And their Dutch driver, Hub Rotengatter, although he's 3 laps behind, is now in 7th position. Only 1 position out of the points. Look at that. And Mansell's out, Cheever's out, De Angelis, Torbay, Jones, Prost, Boots and Sura, Lauda, Piquet, Warwick and Senna are all out of the race, and there are only 9 cars running on lap 68 with 14 laps to go. There is the #1 on the road car, #6 on the car itself, Keke Rosberg. That's the second man, Jacques Lafitte, who is 42 seconds behind Rosberg. Philippe Streff is 26 seconds behind his teammate Jacques Lafitte. Capelli is on the same lap as Keke Rosberg, and he can be very, very proud of that. Look at the full grandstands here at Adelaide as Rosberg goes left, right through the S's, up towards the right-hander at Wakefield Turn, the 90-degree bend, which leads after a short squirt down to another left-handed right-hand bend, if you follow me, and that's East Terrace Bend. Then along to Flinders Bend, another right-hander of 90 degrees. That's where he is now. Up onto East Terrace, into the very fast and deceptive S, which leads up to Market's Turn by the fruit and produce market. Actually, we talk about Adelaide being a street circuit. It is a natural road circuit, but it doesn't actually go through streets in the sense of having buildings on both sides of the course anywhere.
Just going back to the question of whether we'll complete the full distance for this race, we got through half distance in just under the hour, but with all those pit stops and of course the fact that Rosberg has now been able to slow down, he may be able to get it down to 81 laps by getting, or something like that. It's a bit of a difficult one to calculate, but we're working on it. But I would think that the 2-hour rule may well be in line to be invoked here.
Heaven knows how many million people, as we watch Pierluigi Martini back in the race and now ride with Keke Rosberg around the world, are watching this telecast. We know that a lot of people in Australia are, but it's the first time that the 100,000 of them or so who are actually watching this Grand Prix will have seen one on their home land. And I hope they're enjoying it as much as all of us are. It has been a tremendously interesting and dramatic race, and Rosberg still leads by now 43 seconds from Lafitte.
Well, my colleague Philip here has just calculated it, and it comes out that at the present rate of progress they'll finish the 82 laps in 120.3 minutes, which means that they will complete 82 laps, if you understand what I mean, because when they go past at 81 it won't be 2 hours. I should maybe explain what the 2-hour rule is. It was introduced after the 1972, I think it was, Monte Carlo Grand Prix, when Jean-Pierre Beltoise, when Grand Prix were always 200 miles, and it poured with rain, and Jean-Pierre Beltoise won the race in about 3.5 hours, but nobody ever noticed because the crowd who got soaked had all gone home by then because everybody was so bored. So they decided to make it that if a race was slow, like on a street circuit with rain, that whatever happens, a race would be stopped at the end of 2 hours, and a good rule it's been.
You're looking at Stefan Johansson with Philippe Streff snapping at the gearbox of the Ferrari in his blue Ligier. Swedish driver against a French driver, and Philippe Streff is certainly proving that Guy Ligier's decision to elbow Andrea De Cesaris from the Ligier team on account of the fact that the Italian was costing Frenchman Guy Lafitte an arm and a leg in terms of the money he was having to spend on new chassis, with Andrea De Cesaris back at his old tricks of writing them off, was justified because Streff has driven extremely well since he joined the team. But Guy Ligier will be a very worried man because, notwithstanding the fact that he's a Frenchman, a friend of Monsieur Mitterrand, the Prime Minister, has been told by Renault that he is not going to get any Renault engines for his team next year, unlike Lotus and Tyrrell, who are. Monsieur Mitterrand, I have been told, is the President of France. My apologies to him. And so Ligier has got to go looking for new engines. We know that BMW, having allocated their engine to Toleman and promised them to Arrows, provided certain requirements, I understand, are met, are hardly likely to give Ligier engines. So we may possibly be seeing the Hart engine in a Ligier next year, but that is all hypothesis. What is not hypothesis, however, is the fact that we are now on lap 72 with 10 laps to go, if it goes the full distance, and we think it will, with Keke Rosberg there leading by a commanding 42 seconds. Lafitte second, Streff third, both in Ligiers. Capelli in the Tyrrell fourth, Berger in the Arrows fifth, Johansson in the Ferrari is in sixth position, Hub Rodengatter is still seventh, Martini, believe it or not, is eighth. And those are the only runners left in this race. Keke Rosberg has put up the fastest lap so far, 1 minute 23.758, which is just about 4 seconds off the pole position time put up by Ayrton Senna, which is about par for the course. And I'm quite sure that the man who will be most unmoved by his victory, if he has it, will be Keke Rosberg, who takes every race the same, be it a win or a retirement. His attitude is some you win, some you lose, and you must expect to do both if you're good enough. And if I win, I'm not going to be euphoric about it, and if I lose, I'm not going to be too downcast about it. An admirable attitude. But then I suppose when you're driving in your 98th Grand Prix, you've seen just about everything that can happen to you. Lap 72. And that's the arrows that we're looking at of Gerhard Berger chasing Jacques Lafitte, although Berger is a lap adrift. And Berger is another man who has made his mark on Grand Prix racing this year, and I'm sure we're going to hear a great deal more of. Comes from Virgil in Innsbruck, and this is only his 20th Grand Prix. An ex-saloon racer, and not so ex because he was driving a BMW saloon, Greg Siddle's Gould racing car in the touring car race here yesterday, and got elbowed off at the point that he's approaching now, went straight into the gravel that you'll see on the left shortly. There it is. So he's probably keeping a wary eye on that as he follows the Frenchman, Jacques Lafitte, in second place. Jack is just a little bit closer to Keke Rosberg than he was. He's got the gap down to under 40 seconds now. But I'm quite sure in my mind that it is because Keke Rosberg, knowing exactly what the situation is from his in-car radio and from his visual pit signals, is just easing the pace a bit. If you turn the boost down, of course, it relieves the internal stresses on the engine, makes life easier for the motor, and therefore, if there is any inherent weakness, which there certainly doesn't seem to be in the Honda, makes it more likely to last the full race distance. And Keke hopefully shouldn't have any problem with tyres. He's been in, what, 3 times now, is it? Twice for a full set and once for some new rears. And the reason that he will have fitted rears is because going down the Brabham Straight, which is very, very bumpy, they get an enormous amount of wheel spin, particularly if the engine is going up onto the rev limiter and the rear tyres are literally ground away.
Yes, that's right. And we saw also that he grained up the rear tyres. That was visible before he went in. And of course, when the opposition finally managed to dissipate, then Keke was able to have the luxury of getting in there. Now Keke slowed it right down. He's lapping some 8 or 9 seconds slower than he was when he was really racing hard, and that's perfectly sensible. He only wants to win the race. He doesn't want to win it by a hero's margin. And so there's Keke just cruising it around. We'll have a listen as he goes past to make sure his car is healthy. He's coming down to the hairpin before the pits. He'll be past us in a minute. Nice, healthy sounding engine.
Makes it look very easy, doesn't he, as any top man in any sport does. But Keke's still riding the curves, which surprises me a bit. And what a difference there is at this superb Adelaide street circuit now compared with when these Grand Prix cars went out for the first time on Thursday. Then there was so much dust on the surface that they were getting enormous wheel spin. Said it was like driving on black ice. But now, after 2.5 hours on the circuit on Thursday, that's Frank Williams in the headset and Frank Durney in the white cap, Keke Rosberg's race engineer, the Japanese Honda mechanics around Frank Williams, the man who has risen from selling second-hand racing cars to being an extremely wealthy man with an absolutely magnificent racing car factory at Didcot in Berkshire in England. And Frank, for whom, of course, Alan Jones was the world champion in 1980, and for whom people like Carlos Reutemann have driven, Nigel Mansell, Keke Rosberg, looking anxiously down the pit lane, listening on his headset to see whether Rosberg, who crosses the line to complete another lap, and that's his 75th gone, and therefore 6 to go, including the one he is on, has got any problems that he wants to communicate through the radio. Rosberg coming up now to catch and pass Martin Brundle, the young Englishman in the Tyrrell, who was pushed off the course when another driver came out of the pit lane in practicing and severely deranged the rear of his Tyrrell with its Renault engine, and has been into the pits for, that was in practice, and has come into the pits, and Brundle is actually now too far back to be qualified as a finisher in this race. What's going to happen in the World Championship if the points, the positions remain as they are? Well, of course, nobody can beat Prost. He's retired from this race. More's the pity, but he retired as world champion. Michele Alboreto will stay in second position. Keke Rosberg, however, will move up to third position ahead of Ayrton Senna in fourth place. Elio De Angelis will be in fifth position, and Nigel Mansell will be in sixth place. And of course, in the Constructors' Championship, McLaren will, for the second year in succession, be the winners. Notwithstanding the fact that Stefan Johansson, the second of these two cars in the Ferrari, is now in 6th position behind Gerhard Berger 5th, Ivan Capelli 4th, Philippe Streff in 3rd place, Jacques Lafitte 2nd, and Keke Rosberg in the lead. McLaren will have 90 points, Ferrari will have 81, Lotus will have 71, and Williams will be 3rd equal with the Lotus team, thanks to the fact that Rosberg has won. Now, I'm counting chickens before they're hatched, because Rosberg hasn't won. And there's been many a Grand Prix when the winner in the... There's Lafitte pointing ahead of him. I wonder what that's all about. Any clues, James?
No, although he was going past his pit, he might just have been signalling about his front tyres. He's too close to the finish, so they can't guess, I'm afraid.
Well, there's Lafitte anyway. He's got Stefan Johansson in front of him, although Stefan is behind him. He's in front of him on the lap, but he's behind him in the race. And now Stefan Johansson is catching Gerhard Berger. That's what it's all about. Gerhard Berger is 5th, Johansson is 6th, and Johansson is trying to catch and get past the Austrian, and it looks to me as though he's going to do it. The two cars that you're looking at in the front, Berger is 5th in the Arrows BMW, Johansson is 6th in the Ferrari, but even if Johansson won this race, it couldn't make any difference to the positions, and he's going through and taking Berger of Ferrari and McLaren in the Constructors' Championship. He is not going through and taking Berger. He is going through and taking Berger, and has done so. So Stefan Johansson moves up into 5th position and off goes Berger. That's for nothing. And oh, what a pity, because he was going to get 1 point. Is that inexperience again?
I think it was lost concentration after the drama. Here we see again the battle. Johansson was a little bit cool. He really leant on him. Now, you see Berger run wide there. Johansson gets the tail out, but he keeps it all together and goes through. And then I think Berger, after that little bit of excitement, he will be very tired by now, remember. Very, very tired. But he kept his engine running, and he should be able to reverse out of that and limp home, possibly to keep his point, because he's got plenty of laps on Hugh Rottengatter, in which case he will... now, here we go. Now, he just went wide, because I don't think he hadn't damaged his car before that, so that I think he just fell asleep. And remember, these drivers are very, very tired by now. This is very hard work. And but anyway, with a bit of that, Berger can back out and reclaim his point.
I was trying to remember, while James was talking, when was the last time that we had a race go the full 2 hours in the dry. We've had races last 2 hours, but not the full planned race distance because it was wet and the race was slowed down. But to have a race go the full 2 hours in the dry is pretty unusual. And when you bear in mind that this course is not only very tough on brakes, extremely tough on brakes and on gearboxes, but also, of course, very tough on drivers, particularly in this over 30 degrees heat here at Adelaide.
Yes, of course, what has slowed it right down now, of course, is the dissipation of all opposition to Rosberg. He's lapping very slowly by his standards, but he's got a huge lead. And we've got some 4.5 minutes left before 2 hours to go, and on that basis it's going to stop it a couple of laps short at least.
So it's up to us to keep our eyes on the flag marshals at the start of... There he is in his yellow blazer and his very smart black and gold cap, and the checkered flag already at the ready, because Keke Rosberg is on lap 79 out of 82 on his way to a historic victory. Historic for two reasons. One, this is the first ever World Championship Formula One Grand Prix in Australia. The World Championship is now truly worldwide. Historic reason number two, Keke Rosberg is driving in his last Grand Prix for the Williams team, having driven for them for the last 4 years. This would be his 5th victory for Williams. He's being followed by Martin Brundle. It looks as though it's going the full 82 laps at the present moment.
do. We've got 3 laps to go. We may or may not. The 2 hours will go probably in the middle of a lap, and he may get round to complete. So we're coming up to 3 minutes to go. I mean, Rosberg can in fact control the situation if he's aware of it. There's 3 minutes to go only to the 2 hours. So he will complete this lap and the next one, which will make him 80. And if he complete the next one, then he will go round to the 82.
And don't think that it's all over bar the shouting. I well remember when Australia's greatest driver, 3 times world champion Sir Jack Brabham, was leading the Monaco Grand Prix ahead of Jochen Rindt in the Lotus, and Sir Jack was in his own Brabham car. He came up to the last corner on the last lap. He had a severe attack of brain fade. He went off into the barriers and lost the race with only about 200 yards to go. Well, now Keke Rosberg is on the 81st lap in this race with a planned distance of 82 laps. Gerhard Berger, as he went past and down into the S's, was clearly missing his gears, so let's hope he hasn't over-revved the BMW. But Keke Rosberg may well be on the last lap of the race now. He's going to win if he is by 37 seconds, and the Ligier of Jacques Laffite and Philippe Streff are absolutely together for second place. Look at this. Now, is Streff going to defer to the team leader, Jacques Laffite?
I doubt it. It's end of term. Laffite's waving away. No, Streff is showing full determination. And Laffite is telling him to slow down, and Streff doesn't care. Well, I sympathise a bit with Streff, but Laffite's shutting the door on him hard anyway. So these two are having what we hope is a nice friendly bit of rivalry.
That's your problem, Jacques. I can almost hear Philippe Streff saying, Jacques Laffite at the end of his Grand Prix career, Philippe Streff at the beginning of it, and if Philippe Streff gets in front, he may incur the wrath of somebody, but he should worry if in the process he enhances his reputation. And here is Rosberg. Is this the last lap? Well, it is the last lap now, because he's on lap 82.
Yes, and that's perfectly timed, because 2 hours is coming up. It will be up, and there we are. And
what a battle. Now, let's have a look at this again, because Jacques Laffite is furious with Streff. He's angry with the new boy, and he's hit him, and Streff is going to be out of the race. He's destroyed his suspension. And that must be black mark for Philippe Streff, because Jacques Laffite clearly wasn't going to let him by, and Philippe Streff has really blotted his copybook. That means to say that Guy Ligier is going to lose a lot of money, because instead of having 2 cars home, and Streff is going to try and go for it, he's over the line into the last lap, so he will almost certainly qualify third, because Capelli is a lap behind Streff, who's manfully trying to get the car home. But what a silly manoeuvre, because he could so easily have finished in style, as Keke Rosberg is about to do, because he's into the last stages of the last lap of the first Australian Grand Prix, a race which has been full of interest, incident, drama and excitement since the lights went to green.
Yes, a marvellous weekend for everybody, as Keke Rosberg comes up to win, and well organised the Australians. A truly marvellous race with lots of drama.
Victory, the 5th in his Williams career and his Formula One career for Keke Rosberg, the 2nd of the year. Stefan Johansson crosses the line to finish in 5th position, but lapped by Keke Rosberg. We wait now for Jacques Laffite to come in, and here he is. The Frenchman is going to finish. That's Philippe Streff, I'm sorry. We're waiting for Jacques Laffite as we see Streff, and his front wheel is about to come off, I think. Rosberg touring in, and Streff's only just going to make it without his front wheel coming right adrift, because he's got a real handling problem now, to put it very mildly. Indeed, the front wheel, look at that suspension on Streff's car. Laffite has meantime finished in 2nd position. And Streff is either going to come home on 3 wheels or just fail to finish. He's going now into paddock turn. Well, he can get the car home, and I'm looking at the timing apparatus now to see how far Ivan Capelli is behind him. Too far to finish in 3rd position. And Streff is amazingly going to finish as Martini goes past him to unlap himself. But Streff has got a most peculiarly designed Ligier now, with the front wheels out of track, out of line, out of kilter, but he's into the finishing straight to finish 3rd, but having been unlapped by Gerhard Berger. So the Australian Grand Prix won by Keke Rosberg. There he is. 2nd, Jacques Laffite. 3rd, Streff in the 3-wheel Ligier. 4th, Ivan Capelli, 1 lap short. 5th, Stefan Johansson. 6th, Gerhard Berger. A truly exciting, dramatic, interesting race, and a wonderful one for Keke Rosberg. And not a very wonderful one for Philippe Streff, who will be shuffling back to the pits. I haven't seen Guy Ligier here, actually, which is just as well for Streff, because Monsieur Ligier is an ex-French international rugby player, and to say that he is irascible is a masterpiece of understatement. And Streff would be very wise to keep his crash helmet on if he's going to have an interview with Guy Ligier. Rosberg out of the car. There is Stefan Johansson.
Yes, I'm not sure that Laffite was not a lot to blame for that, because he really did carve. He was blocking Streff in a way that he really shouldn't have done. It rather depends on their team orders. If they had no orders about holding position, if they had no orders, then then Laffite would be in the wrong, and Streff would be right to be miffed. It just depends on what the instructions, if any, there were from the team, and if there weren't any, then I think Laffite was a bit out of order.
Out of order or no, we'll know later. Keke Rosberg, just slicking his hair back there to look a little smart for the cameras, has won the Australian Grand Prix from Jacques Laffite, Ligier, Philippe Streff, Ligier, Ivan Capelli in the Tyrrell, a great drive that, Stefan Johansson in the Ferrari.